Hey there, folks. This is Patrick King. I want to welcome you to basically my dining room here at home in Asheville, Ohio. I want to thank you guys for checking in. Our last live broadcast was, I guess we'd call it a pretty good success. We had a lot of interaction, lots of great folks stop by to chat and talk with us. For this live broadcast Q&A, we've had a fantastic response with questions that have come in, both from our Facebook page and from our Facebook discussion group that we've got there. Again, if you're not a member of our Facebook discussion group, please click over and request to join. We've got, I think, something like 600 members now. We've got some great interactions going on, some great conversations, but want to get started with the questions. Again, we had a lot of fantastic questions again this time around, and we'd also like to take some time and do a couple giveaways. We got a new shipment of DVDs in, and I'd like to give a couple of those away. One of our Talking About Transitions DVDs, and also one of our Getting Started with Gorocha DVDs. Basically, without you guys here, this live broadcast stuff would just be me sitting here in front of the camera talking to myself. So that would be weird. So I'm glad you guys are hanging around to help me not be so weird and talk to myself. Anyway, so I want to get into this. The first question we've got here is coming from Jean. Jean asked this question through our Facebook group. She's asked, basically, how do you become a more confident rider? This is something that I spend quite a bit of time talking about with students at clinics, building their relaxation, building their confidence as a rider. And to me, the best way that I've found to help folks with gaining confidence, gaining relaxation, is through the lunge line. I know it's seemingly not a common thing for a lot of instructors to be teaching students on the lunge these days, but to me, there's no better way to help a rider build confidence and gain self-control than through lunge line lessons. In those lessons, the rider doesn't have to necessarily focus so much on controlling the horse. All they need to worry about is controlling themselves, feeling their seat, learning how to sit properly, and just develop that seat that helps to give them confidence because they're able to move with where the horse goes. It's great. We've got little bubbles popping up here saying folks are stopping in. So please, if you get a moment, let us know that you're there. Put a little message, say hello, tell us where you're at, that sort of thing. So again, getting back to Jean's question, I think finding an instructor to spend some time taking lunge lessons is going to be very helpful to you. Pretty important as far as I'm concerned. Again, there's a lot of riders a lot of instructors that don't seem to be spending the time teaching the lunge lessons as often as maybe what it used to happen in the past. I don't know. I can only speak for the time I've been around horses and that sort of thing. But, at Spanish riding school, they spend, something like a year and a half just developing the rider's seat on lunge line. The first 6 months of that is without stirrups and without reins. They're pumping out arguably some of the best riders in the world. So chances are they got this stuff figured out, at least, a big portion of it. So I think that's something that instructors ought to focus on more. So we've got some questions popping up. Nick, good to see you here. Another question that we got on our discussion group came from Bryce Lynn. Bryce Lynn has ridden with me for a couple years. They've got a couple horses that I've had the pleasure of starting. They've got a great deal going there with their horses. Her question: lately, my horse has been overflexing to avoid the contact. She says, I ride more forward to push him into my hands, and then he tries to escape the hands altogether. So what we want to think about is the overflexing, the kind of hyperflexion, almost a self-induced roll curve, to avoid the contact of the rider's hands. What do we do to help get the horse out of this idea? And it's something that we do see quite a bit. And, oftentimes it's through no fault of the horse or through no fault of the rider. That's the horse trying to find what we would consider to be the soft spot, the easy place to be, the place where there's a release of the pressure. When we have a horse coming behind the vertical in order to avoid the pressure of the hands, it's important, what we want to do, what most riders tend to do is release the horse because, geez, we don't want to pull him behind the vertical. But the trouble with that is that then the horse finds the release by coming behind the vertical. So one of the things that I've found to be rather helpful in this case is to follow the horse there. If he's coming behind the vertical, follow him there. So that he does not find a release until you feel him kind of mobilize his jaw, work his mouth a little bit, soften in the neck, and kind of push forward slightly. I don't want a horse pushing on my hands, but I would want to feel as though he's seeking a forward stretch through his top line, through his jaw, into maybe a more sophisticated, more educated contact. Again, this is something that we see happen quite a bit at clinics, and typically by just following the horse, in this case, by just following the horse behind the vertical, if he's going there, waiting for him to hunt for that other release, when he starts to seek a forward contact, that's where we'll offer the release to start with. Another thing that I've found helpful with this is asking the horse for more of what we would call an elevated release, where if he comes behind the contact, we simply lift the hands up, helping him to kind of lift at the base of the neck. We'd be lifting up into the corners of his mouth in this case, rather than drawing back onto the bars of his mouth, which we know we don't want to do. But by lifting, asking for this elevated release, helps the horse to lift the base of the neck and come up lifting at the pole, which most often, in my experience, helps encourage them to reach forward to or in front of the vertical, more where we would rather have them anyway. Okay. So we've got a lot of great numbers popping up, lots of folks coming in to visit. That's awesome. We've got Maryland, we've got Northeast Pennsylvania. Awesome, guys. Please, as you stop in, just type us a little message. Let us know where you're at. It's awesome to see where folks are coming from here. Okay, so Michelle has asked, how do we sharpen up the response of a dull horse to the rider's leg? And is the rider making the horse dull by allowing the horse to ignore the leg until they have to ask with more and more or harder and harder? Okay, awesome question. And again, this is one of those things that seems to pop up at clinics a lot. So how do we sharpen the horse's response when he's a little bit dull to the leg? But maybe coming back to her question, I think it might be great to answer the second part of her question first. Is the rider allowing the horse to basically get dull by ignoring the leg until they have to ask more and more and harder? And my answer to that is absolutely yes. When the rider is allowing the horse to hang out basically on the leg until they feel the need to do more and more and more, basically they're desensitizing the horse. If you're doing the same thing, applying the same stimulus, and getting no result, that's classic desensitization, okay? So that's something that we want to be very careful of. Now, how do we sharpen the horse back up, helping him to be a little bit more responsive to the leg? Now, for this, I would return to the ground. I would start in my groundwork. I would have my dressage whip maybe, or even the tail end of your lead rope, asking the horse to become more sensitive off of the whip aid or the lead aid so that he takes it serious, asking extremely softly to start with, and then following through as necessary until the horse kind of gets a little more lively, stepping off of the whip. I'm not saying we want to beat him or chase after him or, really beat him up, but, we need to help him take this very seriously. So we start with an extremely soft request, and then we follow through as necessary until the horse comes along and responds. Once we've got him more responsive, a little snappier, as they do this groundwork, then we would return to the saddle, asking the horse exactly the same, expecting exactly the same response from the saddle. So I would ask, say, with my leg, and then follow through pretty quickly with my whip, or with the end of the lead rope, or the quirt, or the rommel, or whatever, expecting the horse to come through with the same kind of energy and responsiveness that we got from the ground. Otherwise, we're changing the rules on him, okay? And now that horse that has been desensitized to the rider's leg from the saddle may say, geez, now you're changing the rules on me again. What are you talking about? Maybe not appreciate that. But consistency in our requests, as well as consistency in our expectations, is going to be very important. And don't forget to offer the horse a lot of breaks, a lot of, we call them paychecks, right? Releases for the correct response. It's going to be really important to those horses that have maybe become a little bit dull and lazy. Or lazy off the leg. Something that we can run into is we get over anxious, we get overzealous, and want to ask the horse for more and more and more and more. But again, if we're talking about the horse that has become a little bit dull to the leg, we want to be a little generous in our releases with this. We want to tell the horse, hey, you give me a little bit of good energy there, and I'll give you a bigger paycheck. That's really important to the horse. Again, especially that horse that's become a little bit dull or desensitized to the rider's leg. So thank you for that question, Michelle. Now, that's going to bring me into a question here that I find pretty interesting, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not quite sure how to answer this question. So, Mimi, I hope that you're out there watching this. This question came from you. How can I motivate my horse? That's the question. He's not lazy. He's a thinker. And sometimes he's so extroverted that he turns totally crazy. And she wants to know, how can I redirect his go into a positive direction? Now, again, this is a question I'm not really quite sure of. A lot of the questions that we get in, I think, are fantastic questions. Some of them need, to me, more support. It's hard to answer a lot of questions unless I'm right there, present, watching what's happening with the horses, seeing what's taking place. It's usually easier to give a better answer that way. So that's why this live broadcast stuff has been a little bit of a challenge, but it's been so much fun. So in response to Mimi's question, again, she says, my horse is not necessarily lazy. He's a thinker. And sometimes he gets so excited that he kind of goes crazy. Now, I'm going to say with this, it sounds, to start with, like a hindquarter control problem. I have a feeling that in general, if we had better control of our horse's hindquarters, we could probably solve or even prevent maybe 85% of the troubles that we have. That's just by having better control over the horse's hindquarters. So, off the top of my head, Mimi, I'm thinking that what we might have is a hindquarter control issue. But what I would love is if you get a chance, if you could maybe have a friend video you working with your horse, video you riding your horse. I would love for you to be able to upload that for us. If you're in our Facebook discussion group, that would be the best place for a video like that. Post that video. Let us see what's taking place, and then we'll probably be able to give you a better answer. So thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing a video of Okay, again, we've got a lot of folks checking in here. That's great. Please take a moment, check in, let us know where you're at, where you're joining us from for this live broadcast, our second live broadcast, hopefully with a lot more to come. Want to again remind everybody we got a new shipment of our DVDs in, so we would like to do a giveaway after our live broadcast is over. We'd like to do just random name giveaways for our Talking About Transitions DVD, and also one for our Getting Started with the Garocha DVD. We'd love to be able to do that. So make sure that you comment below in the comment section of this broadcast so that we can do that, so that we can pass out these videos. All right, so let's see. Another question that we've got here is coming from Frank. Frank is a rider who actually rode with me at an expo. I was teaching a class down in Tennessee at the Southern Equine Expo down there. It was an awesome event. I had a blast down there, and Frank was great for joining up and riding with me down there. Frank asks, how do I break my habit of preventing my mare from taking the correct lead? Surely this is something that a lot of us can relate to, where our horse probably knows what to do, but we seem to have challenges, problems getting in our horse's way when we're asking for things. So that, to me, this is a great question. Again, how do I break my habit of preventing my mare from taking the correct lead? I know that I tend to tighten on the reins before I ask, but is there an exercise that I can do to help her without impeding her progress? And again, this is one of those things that we see happening quite a bit at clinics with riders all over the country, all over the world. So, Frank, believe me, my friend, you're not alone in this. I know myself, I have challenges that I work through with my horses also. So it's great that you've put yourself out there and asked like that. Basically, short of taking off the bridle and just dropping the reins, I'm going to defer back to the answer I gave for Jean's question at the beginning of this broadcast, where if we can find an instructor to have you take some lunge lessons, I think that would be a tremendous idea. In this way, you can focus on your body and being in the right position, and then the instructor can help ask the horse to change gaits and that sort of thing from the center of the circle there, being on the lunge line. So that, to me, would be, I think, one of the best ways to help you out. I think that's one of the best things for every rider, is getting the time to spend on the lunge. Now, another thing that I would recommend for this, again, without seeing this piece take place, it's hard to give a lot of recommendations, but something to think about is, as you're asking for that canter, thinking about kind of exhaling and reaching the hands forward as you do that. Not tipping forward, we don't want to do that. That's going to get in the horse's way. We see a lot of riders do that, wanting to kind of lean down and look to see if they're on the correct lead or not. That never helps the horse. In fact, it always gets in the horse's way. So we want to make sure that we avoid doing that. But kind of just softening the hands, reaching the hands forward as we ask the horse for the canter, giving a nice exhale, that should help to soften your body. That would be, I think, a great little experiment for you. See if that helps. See if some other things come up that would be pretty interesting for you there. So we've got a lot of great conversations coming in, a few good questions, and lots of folks checking in from everywhere. So we've got the U.S., we've got Canada. That's awesome, gang. Thank you so much for checking in. And I love Christina. I think that's awesome. Does anyone else find themselves moving into position as Patrick explains the horse's frame? I love that. I'm so much a learner like that. kind of get into it. I joke with my students, their horses struggle because they and I are riding their horse at the same time. So that's awesome. Let's see if we have some questions in here. One of the first questions, in fact, the first question came in from my friend Nick in Maryland. Nick is a farrier in Maryland, and his question is, can we explain to people how to get the horse to stand better for the farrier? I swear we could teach a 2-month clinic every year just on helping the horse to stand for the farrier and helping the horse to get more relaxed with the farrier. This is something that I see come up so often, and it drives me crazy to see farriers struggle with horses that have not been educated about standing for the farrier. This is something, please do your farrier a favor, do yourself a favor, and certainly do your horse a favor, and help them learn how to stand for the farrier. One of my favorite exercises to help the horse learn to relax is to put the rope around their legs, a lead rope, a lunge rope, whatever, and actually teach them to lead by their legs off of the feel of the rope, putting a soft pressure on the rope until the horse lifts their leg, and then we sort of offset their foot, holding it there until the horse steps into that leg, thereby, again, teaching them to lead by those legs. I like to do this with all 4 legs. I think it's very important for a horse to learn how to do this. If you wanted to, say, hobble train your horse, that would be the first step to hobble training your horse as well. So there's multiple benefits to doing that. But again, teaching your horse to lead by the leg, that's one of the best exercises that I know to help your horse stand better for the farrier. Because let's face it, the farrier's job is not to train your horse. Your job is to train your horse, or the trainer's job is to train your horse. The farrier's job is to take care of their feet and make sure that they're structurally sound and as strong as possible in that way. At the very least, you don't want to end up getting your farrier killed or injured by, having a horse that's a terror to handle their feet. And I say that jokingly, but at the same time, I've seen that happen. I think we all probably have. If not, we need to understand that it's a reality. I've seen farriers thrown across the aisleway by horses that didn't understand how to just stand quietly for the farrier. So again, do your farrier a favor, work with your horse on that. It's not his job. I'm pretty sure if I were a farrier, I would be charging a lot extra for training time, and then probably charging combat pay on top of it for any horse that, that was a real struggle, because it doesn't need to be that way. We shouldn't need to be drugging our horses so that they stand for the farrier. We shouldn't need to be struggling or sweating to get our horse to stand quiet and hold their feet for the farrier, whether it's shoeing or trimming. And again, as the horse's owner, that's your job. Let's see. We've got some other things that have been coming in here. Hello, Julie Kennedy. Good to see you guys checking in with us here. Okay, this is a great question from Logan, and this question was also presented to me, or a similar version of this question was presented to me by my friend Colton of Colton Woods Horsemanship. We'll make sure that we'll put that information in the information for the video below, also after the broadcast, so that you can get into contact with Colton if you're interested. Colton does a great job starting colts, working horses for you. He's down in Paris, Kentucky. So shout out to my friend Colton. Logan and Colton both have asked the question, how do we keep a young horse straight? Okay. Now, I'm assuming that you guys are talking about the same sort of straightness that I'm talking about, and that's basically keeping a horse in line with whatever figure we're traveling, whether it's a circle, a serpentine, or truly a straight line. When we talk about straightness in a horse, we're not necessarily talking about straight like an arrow straight. We're talking straight as in a geometric sense. So if the horse is on a circle, or if we're riding the horse on a circle, the horse's body is bent along that circle as best as vertebral flexibility will allow, because we know there's some limitations in there with the pelvis and the withers and that sort of thing. But one of the ways that I like to focus on to help keep our young horses straight is leg yielding. And it doesn't have to be a young horse. I see a lot of older horses that struggle with this challenge also. But leg yielding to me is a fantastic way to help supple and balance the horse's body. Leg yielding is kind of the aspirin, I think, the aspirin for the crookedness in our horses. We soften the horse's low back through the leg yields. Also, another thing that I'm a big fan of is changing body position. So it might be a young horse, but it's never too young, I don't think, to start working on tiny pieces of asking for haunches one way or another, asking for shoulders one way or another, and shoulder 4 with the horse slightly bent to the inside of the track, I think is a great way for our younger unbalanced horses or our stiffer older unbalanced horses to learn how to soften and develop better straightness. So it's all about the body control there. Again, as with everything else we do with a horse, lots of paychecks, lots of rewards for the effort that they give us, always focusing on the softness in there. So I'm going to thank you for those questions. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. Somebody made the comment in reference to the farrier question, that a great farrier is really hard to find, and owners should expect their horses to take care of the farrier. And Christina, you're right on with that. I totally agree. And then we do have, you're so right, Kathleen, again, chiming in with the farrier idea. A lot of times the handler is at fault by giving treats or hay or babying the horses. Something that I've found with traveling around, seeing a lot of barns and working with a lot of farriers, watching handlers coddle the horses and be kind of up in the horse's face, pestering the horse while they're getting their feet done by the farrier, I think is I see it as being a huge challenge. It's kind of like trying to hold a little kid still. The tighter you hold, the more they want to move, The horse is very much that way. Used to be, I would joke with some of the old farriers that I used to work with. They would say I was the laziest trainer that they knew, because I'd pull out a lawn chair and I'd sit down in the aisleway and hold the end of the lead rope and let the horse basically stand ground tied. I was there if I was needed, but I was certainly trying not to be in the way. And I think that's an important thing for us to think about also when it comes to holding the horse for the farrier, is make sure that we're not causing problems by just being a downright pest. So that's a great point, Kathleen. Thank you for adding that. So we're knocking away a lot of questions here, and this is fantastic. Again, I want to remind everybody, if you're just chiming in, just checking in, let us know. Send a message below telling us where you're at. Introduce yourself. Ask a question if you'd like to. We've got some time here. I'd be happy to answer some more questions. Don't forget, we're going to draw a two random names from the comments below after the broadcast has finished to do a giveaway of 2 of our DVDs. We just got this shipment in of our Getting Started with Gorocha DVD. If you haven't yet tried riding with a Gorocha with your horse, it's tremendously fun. It's a fantastic experience, learning experience. It's a great learning tool also, the Gorocha, for the horse and rider. So again, we want to give away one of those DVDs, and I'd like to give away also a Talking About Transitions DVD. That one, I think, I might be a little biased, but I think that DVD turned out really great, helping you to understand exactly what's taking place in your horse's body as you're asking for any of the transitions that you would want. That DVD specifically focusing on transitions within transitions between gaits. So let's see. Okay. Want to add one last question here that came from our discussion group. This one it's a tough question to answer. It's great. I think you guys are going to appreciate it. So this question came from Amanda. And Amanda has ridden with me a couple times. I always appreciate when other trainers ride with me. It's great to get the chance to experiment, share ideas, check in on different challenges and things that are happening with horses. So Amanda's question: as a trainer, sometimes my biggest challenge is getting my horses to perform and respond for their owners the same as they do for me. I try to give as much instruction and lessons when able, but sometimes the clients aren't able to come in and take lessons or receive instruction because they don't live close enough. Is there a better way that I can train my horses or try to make their cues become more obvious? Now, that really is a big challenging question. And I guess I don't really have a great answer for that. How do we help the horse to babysit their owner in spite of their owner's downfalls and mistakes with their aids? That's kind of what the question sounds like to me. And I know that Amanda wasn't saying this in a negative way, but as a trainer and a clinician myself, that's something that I used to struggle with quite a bit, is helping the owners to ask the same things of the horse in the same way as I was asking, so that they're getting the same result. Now, there's a couple sides of this. The one challenge that we find is, of course, the owners are coming to you as the trainer for help with their horse because they're either unable to help the horse or their time schedule has got them incapable of helping the horse. But either way, as the trainer, I feel like it's, of course, our job to help the horse better understand their job. And then it is, I feel, the owner's responsibility for making time to come in and work with you. Now, again, I understand that this is not always possible. I had a full training barn in Pennsylvania for a number of years. I had clients as far away as Mexico. So I understand how difficult that can be, the time gap, the distance factor, that sort of thing. The best thing that I can offer to you, Amanda, is to be offering to these owners potential overnight sessions. That was something that I had owners do quite a bit, is they would say haul in on a Friday, take a lesson Friday night, also take a lesson on Saturday before they head back home. Maybe weekend intensives or something like that, trying to really make a lot of time for the owners, scheduling client-only clinics, that sort of thing. Also, what I've found in the past helpful, video updates, video lessons, explanations for the owner, that sort of thing. The video lessons I found to be helpful because then the owners could look back on them. So say the owner does get to come out and ride with you, having someone film them riding with you is, to me, it's a priceless fallback. It's a priceless resource, something that they can review multiple times to kind of check in and see on their progress. sometimes it's just a reality that it's really difficult to connect owners and their horses when they're there in training. So it is a real struggle. Because this is such a tough question, I think, I would love to put that out there to you guys, to our live audience, to those of you with us right now live on Facebook, also to those of you that are going to be checking in through our YouTube replay. What do you think? Let's help Amanda out. What kind of advice can we offer for her, helping the owners and horses to connect when she's got these horses in training? How can we get the two to connect so that the owners can have as much success with their horses, getting them to respond to the same aids and cues that Amanda's using? So let's put that out there to the world, put that out there to the universe, see what kind of answers we get. We can all learn from that. Okay, so Colton, it's good to see you there. Let's see, Colton's got a great question on here. Concept I've been really chasing lately is getting to the horse's mind through their feet and getting to their feet through their mind. When approaching each horse from where they are at each day, what are some clues, for lack of better terms, that you may look for when deciding which approach to take? Gosh, that's an awesome question as well. You guys are really on it tonight. So getting the horse's mind to get control of their feet and getting control of their feet to get to their mind. It's, that was something that I know Tom Dorrance, Ray Hunt were big proponents of kind of that phrase, that way of thinking. And I know when I lived and worked with Ray Hunt, one of the common things to hear him say was, when they're right in their feet, they'll be right in their head. And when they're right in their head, they'll be right in their feet. So Colton's question, basically, what are you looking for to decide which approach to take? I wish there was an easy answer for that one. That would make me look really cool if we had an easy answer for that. But I don't think necessarily that there is. One of the things that I generally try to think about is, if I'm asking for a horse to feel of me, to kind of feel back to me, and I'm getting a dull response or maybe a vacant response, if that makes sense. So a horse who's kind of off stargazing instead of focusing, that might be a horse where I bring in a little more activity and I get to moving their feet around a little bit as a way to help their mind focus again. But I think it's important for us to always be checking back in with whichever tactic we're using, whether we're trying to first get to their mind to move their feet or first moving their feet to get to their mind. We've got to always be checking back in with that horse. And, it's such an experiment with these horses. Some of them, we might think we need to go a little quicker, bring up some life, really get them moving. And with others, we might find it's best to really slow down and breathe and soften, and that's going to depend on who that horse is as a person, who he is as an individual, to know what would be appropriate. Now, what I will say to that is that I will almost always take the road of really slowing down first. Because for those horses that need us to slow down, if we were to take the other road, if we were to really liven up first, some of those horses could get so bothered that it takes us quite a while to get them to check back in so that we can get to their feet. So I would say really slow down, soften up, kind of get them moving, but in such a slow way. And if the horse is still scattered, reactive, whatever. Then maybe we bring up the energy and see what we can get to from there if we can't get that horse to focus back in on us. Most of the time, I'm not going to say all the time, most of the time I find a lot of success by slowing way down and really compressing the movements that we would ask of a horse. One of the exercises that we teach in the clinics a lot of times is the one we call the one step, where the horse is taking one step with a hind foot, followed by one step with a front foot, and then changing sides, one step with the hind foot, and then one step with a front foot. And that little exercise, as simple as it sounds, and I'd recommend everybody try that out. See how that exercise works for you next time you go to ride with your horse. It sounds so deceptively simple, yet it's sometimes rather difficult because the horse has a tendency to wander, has a tendency to kind of rush ahead of us. So it's I find it's most beneficial to slow down first. And then if the horse says that that's not helping at all, that's when then, we might increase the life to move the feet in order to get to the mind. So, again, that's, to me, an easier question answered live and in person rather than live and on video. If we had a handful of horses around, that would be a great way, I think, to answer that question. But I love that. Thank you for putting that one out there, Colton. Let's see. Okay, so if we have any last minute questions, we can certainly take those. You guys have been posting your comments and giving your thumbs and that sort of thing. I really like that. Again, we're going to have a replay of this video available on our Facebook channel. We're also going to be uploading it, or our Facebook page, also uploading it to our YouTube channel so that you can review it, you can send it to your friends. Please feel free to share this video with your friends, with any groups that you might be a part of. We're going to, of course, have another live broadcast in January. We may even have a couple of them coming up in January. If you've been tuning in to our YouTube channel, you've seen that in the last couple weeks I've uploaded a couple more videos. I have plans in January of adding quite a few more of those. And also, because I'm going to be here at home for the month of January, working outside training horses, taking outside lesson students, we're going to try, can't promise, but we're going to try to offer a couple of these live broadcast discussions, whether it's Q&A, whether it's some sort of other discussion. We're going to try to do a couple of these in the month of January. Because I really enjoy, getting the chance to spend this time with you guys. Even though it's through the computer, I think it's a great way for us to connect. And as we've seen, we've got folks checking in from quite a few folks in Canada, a bunch of folks from all over the United States. So it's a great way for us all to keep in touch. So again, we're going to draw for the DVDs. We're going to post the winners in the comments below after this broadcast is over for our Talking About Transitions DVD, and also one for our Getting Started with Gorocha DVD. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody checking in with us. It's been a whole lot of fun. I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I really look forward to doing this again next time. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. I think you can subscribe or follow or whatever the button is, where it'll give you a notification that we'll be doing this. Again, we try to keep everybody updated with it a week out, the day before, the day of, trying to keep you posted when we do these live broadcasts so that you have the opportunity to check in with us and to visit. I want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I hope that you've had a fantastic year. I know we've had a great 2016. We're looking forward to an awesome 2017. We've got I think, some really cool plans for the future, some great stuff that we're hoping to be providing to you guys, some opportunities, some, educational opportunities, that sort of thing. I can't thank you enough. Again, without you guys out there, these live broadcasts would just be me sitting in my dining room talking to myself in front of the camera, and that would be really weird. So, thanks for keeping me not weird, right? Again, Merry Christmas. I look forward to riding and seeing all of you in 2017. If I was to give someone a big holiday kiss, Jake Birnbaum and my friends at B-Bar C Foundation Station in Reddick, Florida, you guys know it would be you. Sending out a big holiday kiss to you guys. And to everybody, those of you who've ridden with me, you guys know I'm a huggy kind of a fella, so sending a big hug to everybody out there. Thanks again for checking in with us. We look forward to seeing you next time.